Welcome to the Next Gen CMO podcast, where we sit down with seasoned CMOs and emerging talents in sales and marketing to explore the wins and occasional losses that shape today's leaders and the strategic maneuvers that can help propel you to the forefront of B2B marketing.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Next Gen CMO podcast. Today, I'm super excited to welcome Wesleyne Whittaker to the show. She is a sales strategist, a trainer, a leadership expert, and she helps field sales teams drive growth and performance and continue to excel at their craft. She actually comes from a background in chemistry, so I'm excited to dive into that a little bit. But she quickly transitioned into sales and became a top performer, an international sales leader before founding Transformed Sales, which is her organization. So we're excited to learn more about her, excited to hear more about how she's helping sales and marketing, and as she puts it, stick together like peanut butter and jelly. So I'm excited about diving into that one too. You hear more often oil and vinegar, not peanut butter and jelly. So I love that. So welcome to the podcast, Wesleyne.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, before we jump in, I know I gave a little brief thing, but there was a lot of little nuggets in there, like chemistry, like sales transformation, like, international sales. Tell us your career story in 3 or 4 sentences.
So I call myself a recovering chemist, and I worked in the failure analysis lab. So why do plastic parts break? That's what I did to start my career. I got into sales, finally figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up, loved everything about it, made a really quick ascent to international sales leader, fell completely flat on my face, worked through the things that I needed to do to really empower myself and empower my team. And 6.5 years ago, I started my own company.
Amazing. What would constitute a fall flat on your face?
Not hitting our numbers and people leaving. And there was a brave soul after I had a couple people leaving. I'm like, okay, so really, why are you leaving? Help me understand why you're leaving. And she told me, well, I'm leaving because of you. I was like, what do you mean? I know. I was like, but I'm amazing and I'm great. And I'm telling you all the things that I did that helps me. And I'm going to college with you guys and helping you close. And she was like, that's the problem. I said, oof, Lord have mercy. That was like a dagger in my heart, right? That was the moment that I realized, like, I am doing this wrong. And so that brave person who told me that is really what took me on a journey of transformation to understand how to show up as a leader and not to micromanage and do the work for the team.
Yeah, that's a tough a tough lesson to learn. This podcast, I call it Next Gen CMO because a lot of our audience are these up and coming CMOs, ones who like maybe senior director, VP of marketing that want to be a CMO. And I think, they're probably right in the thick of that. I mean, we all struggle with it, right? But right in the thick of that, I'm carrying the responsibility of this, but I have to empower my team. It's about hiring the right talent. It's about empowering them with the right approaches and objectives, but letting them run. It's hard. I had a conversation literally yesterday with my boss and said, how do I both see red flags in people that my team wants to hire and want to say, ooh, you shouldn't hire them, but also empower them to build their own team? Like, where is the fine line between, guidance and mandates? It is a little bit of a gray area for sure.
It is. And just that thing that you mentioned about like what's that balance? How do I empower them but still say, "Ooh, I see a disaster coming." Right? I found that the power of questioning, right? So really asking people those introspective questions to make them think through the reason why they want to make this decision or the reason why they feel like this is a good person, right? And when you make them think on their own, they come to the conclusion that you want them to get to, but it's a lasting lesson that they hold on to forever.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. I think about that. I have a kid who's getting ready to like figure out the whole college thing, and he's got to like figure out to evaluate against majors and schools and opportunities and all the things. And part of it, I'm like, you should have to like trust your gut, ask the right questions. Like I have my favorites, but I'm gonna kind of guide him. But it makes me think of you going chemistry. And you said recovering chemist. So I'd love to know, like, do you think there are parts of your because I assume you went into chemistry because you loved math and science, you were good at it, all that good stuff. What was it that got you from there to say, I think sales is actually the path?
So when I worked in the lab, what I noticed is I was doing all these tests, I was running all these analysis, but I was like, why am I doing this stuff? Like, who cares about this? So every time our sales team or technical support team would come back from visiting customers, I'm like, okay, you have all of these things that you want done. Why are we doing this? Tell me about the customer. Like, what are they experiencing in their world? And so, like, crafting the story around the data is really what brought me joy. So I wouldn't just say, here's the number. I would say, okay, so the reason why when you drop a six pack of Coke in this igloo cooler and it cracks when there's a lot of ice versus it doesn't crack when there's no ice is because the breaking point is at this temperature. And so it's like, okay. So they could take that back to their customers and they were able to tell the story and not just give them data. And so when I stepped into sales, that's literally kind of what I did. I went to my customers. I didn't know anything. Like I literally knew nothing about selling or sales. So I was like, how are you using this equipment? Tell me what it's doing for you. How is it being used out in the world? And so they taught me their language. And so that's really how that transition happened for me.
I love that. I mean, and I think that discovery step is often a step that gets missed, especially if you move up as you move up market into mid-market and enterprise and these bigger customers. It's not a one size fits all kind of an answer. And so really that discovery of asking questions like why, what are you struggling with? What are your pain points? What are you trying to solve? And so I love that that's your connection is sort of the data and using the data to tell a story, which actually is a great sales skill set.
It is. It is. And, in thinking about, just how data helps us in sales and marketing and in this very revenue generating area that we work in, I say, tell everybody data drive decisions.
Yeah.
So like the data tells me where to go. So whether I'm evaluating a sales team or we're looking at metrics of this email marketing campaign and we're trying to figure out what to do or how to do it or what segment we should double down on, use the data. Like don't use just your gut. We need data to drive decisions.
That is right. That is right. Yeah, it's hard to argue with the data for sure. Especially for you as a chemist, you probably understand like it's the data itself is dependent on external all the factors and all the assumptions that go into it too. So it also allows you to poke holes in the certain data that says, "Ooh, that's actually a bias because of this situation." Like there's so much in that science mind that is such a direct correlation to sales. I love that.
Yeah. And one of the things that I emphasize over and over, I'm like, we only change one thing at a time, right? And so it's literally that is my scientific brain. Like, if we change five things, we don't know which one worked. So let's change one thing, let's test, and let's see how that works. And so, like you're talking about your son, I think you said, who's getting ready to think about college. It's like for me, it's because I have a son, he's going to graduate next year. And I'm like, college teaches you how to think. Like, choose the thing that you feel is most interesting to you. And who knows if you're actually going to use that specific degree, but it's the skill set that we get when we go to college and we apply it in all of these different ways. Because 20-year-old Wesleyne had no idea that I would be doing what I'm doing now at all.
For sure. People always ask him, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm like, do you mean what is he going to write in his essay or what does he actually want to do? Because what he actually wants to do, he has no idea. Right? Because you don't at that age. So yeah, learning to think and learning to figure out even the softer skill set of what do I enjoy for you, storytelling, using data, like coming to conclusions, understanding the why, like that's really, really powerful. So I love that. Cool. Okay. So one of the things that I've seen that you talk about some is about having a leadership centric approach. How does that work when you think about building and developing high performing sales teams? How do you empower that?
So, one of the truths that I hold is if leadership is not invested and involved, nothing is ever going to work. And so, I actually have a client that I'm working with now, and we're in the first phase of their engagement, and that's evaluating the team. And it's been 3 weeks, and only 50% of the team has taken their evaluation. So, I had to go back to the leadership and I said, hey, you guys are investing in a transformation, but let me tell you the problem is this leader that you have sitting in the seat. Because if he's not holding them accountable, they're not going to hold themselves accountable, right? So a lot of times we say, oh, the sales team isn't selling, or they're not doing this, or they're not doing that. But what about our leadership? Have we even empowered them and given them the tools to know how to hold people accountable? Are they holding themselves accountable? So I think that we first have to look at the acumen of the leader. and the strength of that leader and their skill sets and figure out, do they have what they need to even take this team from where they are to where they need to go? And if the answer is no, it doesn't matter how many thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars you throw at sales training, it's never going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, part of that is I look at often like people that are great sellers are not always great sales managers. What have you seen like on maybe the differences on like what makes one successful versus the other? Because I think some sellers are like, oh, I want to move up and then manage the team. And you realize, oh, we actually need you like in front of customers selling all the time, not managing the team because of the different skill sets. What do you see there?
So one of the things that I see is a top salesperson is typically, and I don't want to put anybody in a box, but they're typically kind of selfish, right? Because they are a one woman, one man show. So if you take somebody who's a top performer that is used to marching to the beat of their own drums and tell them to develop other people, it shocks their system because they're not used to that buy-in. They're not used to really building those connections within the organization. So one of the things that you really want to evaluate is how well does this person build bridges within the team, cross-functionally, with marketing, with customer success, with product development. Like, are they stepping outside of their role to actually build those bridges? And then the second thing is, do they have the heart of a teacher? Because we want our managers to have the heart of a teacher. And if they don't have that propensity to mentor, to teach, to train, then they're just going to be telling people what to do, and they're actually not going to be inspiring and impacting change.
Interesting. I've never really thought about a sales leader having the heart of a teacher, but I do watch the SDRs report to the marketing organizations who report up to me, and I look at the way our SDR leader leads, and he's excellent. But it's really, it is. You're right. It's very similar to how like my kids get assignments at school in terms of like teach something, test on it, teach something, test on it, hold them accountable, support them when they're struggling, coach them in their gaps, all the things that I guess a teacher would do. So that's a really cool mentality. That sounds like a good question we should add to like sales manager interviews, right? Yeah, maybe like, I don't know, something related to teaching skills or something in that area.
But that it is a really good question, because one of the things is, like, really good leaders understand that people all learn differently. So even if you ask them, "So tell me, what's your philosophy on training your team?" And they're like, "Oh, so I have these SOPs and everybody has to read them and do this and this and that." You're like, "Oh yeah, that's great." But if they're like, "Yeah, so I write the SOPs, but I also make sure we have videos and I make sure that there are ways for them to actually test their knowledge," like, they are really thinking about meeting the needs of their team. And when you find someone that has the ability to really teach, to coach, to mentor, it doesn't matter about the product knowledge they have. It doesn't matter like if they were always at 100% of quota, they can inspire people to that change. And that's what we want a good sales leader to do.
Is that tied to what motivates them? Like, are you motivated by your individual accomplishments or are you motivated by seeing an entire team be successful? Is that a core part of that?
It is, because as humans, there are three different types of motivation. So extrinsic motivation, that's kind of like that top salesperson that needs money, that needs things, that needs whatever. Intrinsic is, I run a race by myself and I want to be better than the version of me that I was yesterday. And altruistic is, I am motivated by helping others. So they are literally motivated by seeing the success of the team, right? So it's not just about them being better than they were before. It's really about, I want this organization to run. I want this organization to move. And so the best leaders I see have a mix of intrinsic and altruistic. Because if they're too altruistic, they're too kumbaya, buy in, making sure everybody's on it, right? But if they have a little bit of that intrinsic motivation, they want to be a really good leader. So they want to be a really good leader, and they also want to bring the team along with them.
Yeah, very cool. I love that. That's a nice balance to try to find. Speaking of balance, you talked about sales and marketing being like peanut butter and jelly. And by the way, I love a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There's nothing like more comforting, more like I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I should be on my couch. I feel like I should be with my family. Like that's like childhood. I love everything about this. So tell me what is like some signs that you see that a company has either peanut butter and jelly type tendencies or more oil and water type tendencies between your go-to-market organizations?
So peanut butter and jelly, like you said, it's just nostalgic. It's good. It reminds you of peaceful times as a child, right? So that's the same thing that I'm looking for within the sales and marketing organization. Are we having meetings? Are we talking about things? Are we using so the best organizations where I see sales and marketing work together, they are saying, "Hey, marketing, you guys did these things really well, and we really saw this batch of clients or these events that we went to convert. How can we do more of those? Like, what things can we give to you to do more of this?" And then marketing is like, "Hey, sales, so as we're looking at our data, this thing didn't perform as well. Do you have any suggestions for us? Is there something that we can do better?" So it's opening it's not the floodgates, it's opening the airwaves, right? So that they're communicating really, really well. And that oil and vinegar is literally, you did this wrong. No, you did that wrong. Nope. And meanwhile, our revenue is faltering, our profitability is going down because nobody wants to take responsibility. And so having that good synergy is really like, I take responsibility for the good and the bad of my organization. And I make sure that the other teams do too. And when we fail, we all fail. When we win, we all win. It's not the sales team just close the big deal. It's we close the big deal. Hey, marketing, did you know that this person came from a Google ad and they said that this is the thing that they saw that came to us and we were able to move them all the way through and we closed the biggest deal of the month. Like, let them share in that joy too. It wasn't just the sales team, right? And I think that when you open those lines of communication, that is really what helps that go to market arm move forward strongly.
Amazing, amazing. So obviously there's a lot of complexities, right? You just touched on a few, like in like kind of buried all in there. That and I think those complexities drive, sales and marketing alignment or lack of sales and marketing alignment. What do you think? So let's look at it from both sides. What do you think salespeople misunderstand about the value of marketing? Like, what do you want salespeople to know about marketing?
So I think what salespeople should, something just came into my brain. So I'm just going to roll with that and then I'll back into something else. So one of the things that I find a lot of salespeople think about marketing is they feel like the marketing department works for them. Like they are like, I'm above you and you're below me. Right. And so one thing that I want them to understand is the marketing team doesn't work for you. They work with you. Right. And if you realize that we work with each other, then we're leveling the playing field. And when you go in with that in mind, you say, "Hey, I was reviewing the CRM this week. And so what I was doing, I was looking at some reports and I'm noticing that a lot of my leads that are converting are coming from this source. Tell me more about that. I want to do more of that. What can we do together?" Right? Like, so it's synergy. We're talking about together language, not you need to do this, I need to do that. Like I hear a lot of times from marketing departments, they keep asking you to make all these campaigns, and every time I make a campaign, it doesn't work. And then they say they want more and more and more, and they get mad when it doesn't convert. And I'm like, what are they giving you to make the campaign? Like, you can't just give me beans and say make peanuts, right? Like make a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Like, where's the thing in between? So again, this is a synergistic thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess then on the other side, what should marketing know about what sales needs from them or what maybe how does a marketer better understand how to communicate effectively with a seller?
So I think for marketing to communicate more effectively with the seller, it really is. And so in marketing, you guys are really good talking about the voice of the customer, right? And so I think that it's important for the marketing teams to understand that one of your customers are the sales team or it is the sales arm. So understanding what language that particular arm or department needs really helps you communicate with them better. Because if you speak the language of the sales team, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. So if we go in as a marketer and we talk about click-through rates and conversion rates and impression, salespeople don't know what that means. It means nothing, right? So really making sure that we're using language that we know that our sales team understands. Like, this is how many people looked at this particular newsletter. Instead of saying, this is how this is the open rate, this is the click-through rate, this is, you know what I mean? So I think like leveling that playing field a little bit, and also marketers are usually really good at telling the story, helping the salespeople understand the why. I'm asking you to give me feedback on this campaign so that I understand what I can do better next time. Not just, hey, give me the data for this, or you know what I mean? So really focusing on the storytelling and explaining the reasons why things are happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Have you, like, in your experience in coaching organizations, do you have any examples of, like, and obviously don't name a company name, but dynamics of a company that has done it really, really well, and maybe one that has not done it so well? Like, the 2, like, the red flags of like, "Ooh, this one is struggling. I just figured it out because X." And maybe it's some of the things you already talked about. Maybe they don't meet, maybe they don't talk, maybe it's a lot of finger pointing and complaints. I don't know. But what have you seen, like, intangible, exercises?
So companies that don't do it well, I would say they do a lot of the things that I told you don't really work. The sales team points fingers at the marketing team all the time. There are no open lines of communication. The work that the marketing team does isn't really valued and respected because the sales team is like, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and they just complain. No solutions, just complaining, right? So I would say that's where it doesn't work really well. Within organizations that I've seen it work very, very great is so at sales team meetings, every so often they have somebody from marketing come in and talk, right? And share things. And vice versa. In the marketing meetings, they actually have salespeople come in. And taking that level up, they will share success stories. So when the sales team shares those success stories and they can track it back to something that marketing did, that really helps elevate marketing. They problem solve together. So if our conversion rates are really low from our inbound leads to our discovery call, like we're not just saying our SDRs are bad, they're not qualifying well. They really look and see, okay, we see certain SDRs are not getting it, but certain ones have like a 70% conversion rate. So maybe it's not the SDRs. Let's go a step before that and say, oh, okay, now we see it's the actual where these leads are coming from. So what can we do to fix this? Like they get into the data a lot to really figure out together, like what can we do on either side? Because again, we're one organization. And I think that's the final thing there is when sales and marketing realize that they're not competing. Like we're one team. We're one organization. We have one goal, make more money for our company, period. Right. And when they get that in their mind, that is what really helps those organizations align.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with all of that. One of the things that the fine line we dance sometimes is we're all in this together, we're all driving revenue, we're all driving pipeline, we all have a role in that. But sometimes when it's not working, we have to troubleshoot. And when you start troubleshooting, it shines a light on gaps in that. Is marketing not doing their part? Are the AEs not hunting? Are the GADs not cross-selling? Whatever it is across the organization. And so that fine line of like, how do we troubleshoot as a team? We're all trying to find out what's going on without it sort of shining this big, fat, bright, spotlight on the troublemaker in the group.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and it's a delicate balance, right? Like you find all the problems and you're like we want to fix everything all at once, but I kind of again going back to my chemist brain, I say go deep, don't go wide, right? So like fix the what is the one thing that you feel and a lot of times when we're having issues, it's like we need a short-term fix. The 12 months, 3 month is great, but it's April 15th and we need to hit this number before April 30th, right? So what are we going to do in 2 weeks? It's go deep. And everybody focuses on that thing instead of saying, "Oh, okay, this is sales problem. Oh, no, this is this person's problem." And like let's all focus on the one thing that we have decided and come to that we want to work through this month or this quarter.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, random thought in my head, you've probably seen a lot of different organizations. What have you seen, or what are the pros and cons you've witnessed if you've been in organizations like this of having sales and marketing both under the same roof versus having separate leaders? I think about yours on like working for versus working with has obviously an impact or is influenced a lot by the organizational structure. Have you seen that work one way better than the other?
I really think it's So it's kind of the way the organization is set up. So if it's an organization that has many different business lines and products and things like that, it really works a lot better for sales and marketing to be under the same umbrella, just because like the synergies, the open lines of communication, because the leader at the top is able to say, I don't care what you guys want to do. This is our joint vision right now. Like, let's do it, right? They're answering to the same person. In much larger organizations, if it's like we sell this thing, and so the marketing team may have this many people and the sales team may have this many people, maybe it's too much for one leader to handle. But in the same token, it's like the people at the top of the food chain, the CMO and the CSO, they have to be talking, right? So it kind of just rolls up to the top, whereas instead of your VP of sales and VP of marketing talking, but I think that there has to be synergy somewhere, and it has to be at the highest level of leadership within that organization, because they're the ones who can calm those fires. And I also think that it opens those bridges, opens those gaps, because you'll have somebody who maybe just a marketing intern, they can chat with the SDR because they're on the same team. So they can say, hey, can I sit down on these calls for 30 minutes? Because I want to hear more of what the customers are saying. It makes that a little bit easier when you're under the same tree.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I get that for sure. Well, that's a lot. We've covered a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. I've loved the conversation. Excited to learn more about you and to continue following you. So if we have any people that have been listening and are like, man, I want to see more of Wesleyne, like what's the best way to contact you, follow you, engage with you?
I would say the one best way is LinkedIn. I post daily content on sales, leadership, and so that would be it. And I'm just Wesleyne.
Awesome. Very cool. We will pass along. We'll drop that in the footnotes. Before we leave, any fun fact about you that you'd like to share that's maybe outside of the world of sales and marketing alignment?
I love to bake. I am a baker, yes. And so I am gluten intolerant. So I love to bake, and I have been perfecting my gluten-free baking. A couple weeks ago, I made a lemon cake with lemon cream cheese icing that was gluten-free, and nobody could tell. So that is like a whole skill in and of itself. So yeah, that is my fun fact.
Do you hate to cook? Because I love to bake also, but I hate to cook. Yes.
Yes. So here's the thing that I had to start doing, because I'm a morning person. And so, like, it's just cooking's just not happening after work. It's not, right? And so, actually, after I get my kids off to school, I actually cook dinner, because that helps me. Like, we will have food because I'm not doing it at 5 o'clock. So I have to do it when my brain is most active. So, yeah.
That's a really smart way to go. I'm a morning person too, and so I was, like, running out of time during the day because I was in meetings all day. So by the evening, I'm like, "Now I gotta cook dinner, I gotta drive volleyball carpool, I gotta pick up from football, I gotta whatever, and I need to make dinner and probably catch up on work that I didn't do while I was sitting in meetings all day," and I just couldn't, and so I started getting up at 5 a.m. just to work for a couple hours to catch up on my work, like, to get caught up from the day before, when my brain is fresh and when it's ready to go. And then at like 7, I can kind of collapse on the couch. But I love the idea of moving dinner to the morning as well. Do you have like a favorite? Is that like a crock pot thing, or will you do just straight oven and then just reheat later?
It just depends. So I love my Instapot, and I love, like, easy one pot meals. And so the Instapot is like my lifesaver. So like, for instance, this week, one day, so I pulled out some chicken breast. It was in the fridge. It was thawed out. I put some rice in the Instapot, put some black beans in a Dutch pot, and cut the chicken up. And like, literally, I was like, oh, 30 minutes, done. Like, just like that. So I just have, and so I know in my mind what I want to make. So I make sure I have everything prepped, and it just goes so fast because my brain is going. I have my music going in the kitchen, and then I feel accomplished before I even start working. It's so good.
I feel like I've accomplished more by 8 a.m. than most people all day, and this feels good.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Yeah, we're okay on the Instapot. We become addicted to the air fryer, which is like our new favorite. Like, only I think it's the big savings for me is that it doesn't require preheat. You just drop it in and press start. And I'm like, I just saved like 15 minutes right there just by not having to wait on this thing to preheat. But if only we could just live on the baked goods all day, then we wouldn't have to worry about the dinner.
I know.
Awesome. Well, Wesleyne, it was so good to have you. Thank you so much for joining today. And I love the conversation. I know folks learned a ton. So thank you for being here. And for folks on the call, thank you for listening. Welcome to Next Gen CMO podcast. If you have not been here before, and if this is a repeat episode, thank you for coming back. And we will see you next time.